So here we take all of that, right? We translate it now into basically leadership right now. What are the leadership challenges? And so this is an area I'm going to get you to kind of like give the audience tonight a little bit of heads up.
There are actually three aspects of challenges that I see in my clients, and based on my consulting experience, the first thing is like to drive performance. Now, most of my clients, they no longer specifically talk about change management because the change is constantly there. They are like always playing catch-ups to actually how to do the same things better to achieve a different outcomes or results. So like mastery or productivity or efficiency. So so companies are now going into, let's say, new technology, new client segment, and how to do the same thing, but at a much better, improved version of it. So one example I can think of is actually when I start to actually take a different training approach to help the clients deepen the skills penetration. So we actually tear down their curriculum into like they have a management 101, for example, and then I kind of like segment it or dissect it into smallest bite size, do a 2-hour kind of training instead of like full day training, and then build upon skills by skills and inject like practicum into their leadership curriculum. So not just workshop, but follow through as well. I think that becomes very important to actually review all the back to basics, like how do you build trust and relationship online, for example? How do you communicate differently to different people looking from different culture and stuff like that? How do you focus on useful differences?
At this age, I have to scratch in my head about what you mentioned about imposter syndrome, and certainly it's a terminology I'm very familiar with. But I can see what you're saying right now is that a lot of time when we say traditionally, when we say imposter syndrome, is that people, they have to fake it to make it. So they fake it so much, right? They started to think whether am I anywhere close to the thing that I tell other people that I am. So then that's what we mean by this notion about imposter syndrome. Right? We keep selling ourselves more than what we actually are in a sense. And you know, at some point, shit, is this going to all crumble down? People will find out at the end. So that's the imposter syndrome. The other part that's much more relevant to today, right, is that you cannot just simply be relying on what you know, what you're confident at. So confidence includes being able to be confident about things that you are not sure of yet, but you know enough and you know where to get information. You have got the resources or the network that you have your own curating information processes. You're constantly getting into the information knowledge space and researching ahead of time, right? Yes, I may not have done it, but I know what are the critical points that we need to consider and how to put the plan together. And so that, I do not call that an imposter syndrome, because you cannot always just come from a space of talking about things I have experienced, I know fully, this is my degree, therefore I can do it. No, because the world has changed. We have got to handle things that we don't know. But the key is, how much confidence can we pull from ourselves to be able to lick those things that we don't know?
In fact, in my coaching with leaders, especially startup leaders and founders, is that I actually told them that there are two types of confidence. One is the confidence based on your past, where you have a whole series of track record and successes to build on. But those confidence will be easily shaken if the next thing that comes is something that you're doing it the first time. The other type of confidence is moving forward, looking ahead in the future, and you are very clear and kind of like dedicated to make that happen. That clarity gives you the confidence that is unshakable, even though you may not know how to do it, but you know you're going to try your very best to get there.
So, and this is a topic that's very, very dear to me, because it's the bread and butter of my training, the certification training that we go through. The confidence here that we talk about is also about that. To add on to what you say, is the confidence of knowing yourself.
Yes.
If you have done a significant amount of personal development, right? That means you are able to sit inside a room. You know yourself to say, these are the things, if I apply myself, I can actually lick it. I can handle this. This is, I know, it's definitely outside of what I'm capable of. And therefore, I need to be able to say no, or be able to leverage with other people to work together on this, for example. So the more you're able to work, so today, personal development is not just the fact that it's, oh, nice to have. I think today, personal development, it is the core of surviving in the VUCA world. The more you know yourself, the more you know you are able to take on something, and you are able to adapt. And somewhere inside of you, you will land. Somewhere inside of you say, I will land this. So, but that doesn't come with, you know, a short period of time. It's something that you need to work on it on a regular basis, in a sense. Yeah. So, yeah. So I think we'll move on scaling. Let's talk a little bit more. We have about 7 minutes left.
Yeah. So scaling basically is doing more of the similar things in the form of expansion. Not all businesses can scale, by the way. All businesses can grow, but not every business can scale. So the difference is that if you need to replicate the exact number of resources to actually double the revenue, then that is just growing a business, but not scaling the business. Scaling the business basically means that it is your per unit cost will reduce with every expansion you do. Yeah, so that's the difference.
Okay, right.
And for transformation, this is when businesses needs to pivot to a new industry. So I have an interesting experience where my construction client actually have to move into manufacturing because of the change of methodology in constructing residential high-rise. So that requires, that's a lot more complex because it requires a changing of identity, a changing of skill sets, reward structure, career path, and everything. And my that experience was where I have to work with a core team where they have lean process drivers, technical CFOs and all this to relook into the whole organization. And I was taking care of the behavioral change aspects. So we have to do like team coaching, we have to do core training, we have to do business process mapping, we have to do core values enhancement, etc. in a very multi-pronged kind of approach. Yeah, and that was a very good experience for me personally in terms of my learning, but that was very challenging in terms of complexity.
Yeah. So I can see that your work puts you into a spot whereby you need to be able to unite what we call the HR side of things, which is your kind of your core, maybe your core bread and butter. And then the other part is about talking about connecting it with this idea about OD, that means looking at organizing as a developmental process, right? It's a development process, and somewhere in between there to be able to put in this learning and development to be able to equip people with the right mindset and the right skill set to be able to. By the way, the mindset is not just training. Today, a lot of this mindset is also into what we call small one-to-one coaching sessions or small one-to-small group team kind of situation. So I think that you have that. In some way, you're blessed because you come from an MNC space in the OD realm, looking at multi-function. On the other hand, you also deal with what we call the bottom line dollars, right? The return on investment, and because they don't get the return on investment, the company will not be able to pay you in the next 6 months.
Next month's retainer.
Yeah. So, and in some way, that is one of those things that I find that is a value add in terms of our collaboration together, because I tend to come from a space where I'm looking at the people side of things, the skills and knowledge set to be able to use the company's so-called core competencies, drive them towards the desired future they want. Looking at it, the people, knowledge, and skill set. There might be some HR and there might be some what we call business side of things, but that's not primarily what I'm called to do. So I'm into the people side, knowledge and skill set side of things.